Irregular verbs are a disaster for a lot of English learners, I can confirm. There are over 600 irregular verbs, but even native speakers know about 200 of them. You need about 100 irregular verbs for speaking at C2 level. One of the problems is that native speakers have a totally inappropriate way to learn them. They group them into sets of words with similar endings. You may have seen this: buy, bought, bought, think, thought, thought, bring, brought, brought. So they will group these words according to the endings they get in regular forms. And then also put, 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 said, 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 cut, cut, cut. In this group, the regular verbs don't change in all forms. The problem is that for a native speaker who studies English, it's pretty easy. Children already know these words and what they mean when they learn English at school. ESL learners very often don't know the meaning and translate the words into their native language. They need to remember the word itself, its meaning, two irregular forms that don't make sense to them, and also remember which group it should belong to. It's too much. So the most common ways to learn those irregular verbs don't work with ESL learners. They do work, but they take a lot of time and effort, and very often they just demotivate and discourage people who learn English. I am an ESL teacher, and when I was actually teaching, I offered a different strategy, a different approach to my students. First of all, don't even try learning these verbs before you learn past tenses and present perfect. Up until that time, you just don't need the regular forms of the verbs. Then, when you just start to get 10 or 15 most common regular verbs, they will most likely be the easiest ones to remember. Print them out and learn them just by reading the table sometimes. But don't start with the first one every time. Keep the table near you so that you can look at it when needed. Also, I strongly recommend making examples with some random verbs from time to time. Make your own examples in different tenses and see how those verbs are used in your sentences. You see, using the words you learn is essential for making your brain believe that you actually need this information. Without that, all the words you learn may only be put into the passive vocabulary and you won't be able to actually use them. After you memorize them and keep on learning English with your teacher or on your own, find top 30 regular verbs and print them out. Repeat the process. Whenever you bump into an irregular verb, pay attention to it, how it's written, how it's pronounced. Look at the table and see all three forms. Then when you go on learning English and understand that those 30 verbs aren't enough for you, find the table with the top 50 most commonly used irregular verbs. The key idea is that you should add new verbs only when you actually need them. Once you understand that you start bumping into some verbs you don't know several times a day, you should take a broader list of regular verbs. By doing this, you will have several benefits. No learning by heart like a poem or something, acquiring the meaning of each verb, not just learning it, putting into your head only something you really need, not some random verbs from a strange table from the internet, and growing the list of the irregular verbs along with the progress of your English learning. Do you know a better method? Write in the comments.